Let's write a minimal Node.js application and then add Swagger to automatically create documentation, and more than that, to automatically create an HTML page that will document those APIs and allow us to test them over a browser. Now, as you can see here, we will be installing some supporting packages, and we have Swagger with JSDoc, with Express, and then NodeMon that I will be using to give us some automatic reloading. As you can see here, I have my editor open and I have an empty folder called Books. That Books folder happens to be on my desktop. And here I am in the same place in the terminal. If I show you the path, you can see there that is desktop Books. Now at this point, I'm going to go ahead and create my npm application. And I'm simply going to go ahead and enter init and then -y to go with all the defaults, and you can see there that I have done that. I'm now going to go ahead and install all of those packages, those 4 packages that we just overviewed. And I'm going to go ahead and add one more script to that automatically generated metadata, and as you can see there, it has NodeMon app.js. This is a file that we're going to create in a moment, and this is what we will use to give us reloading. So I'm going to go ahead and save that. I'm going to go ahead and clear and create that file. So now that we have that file, we can go ahead and enter npm start. And as you can see there, we have our auto reloading enabled. Next, let's go ahead and write our code in app.js. I'm going to go ahead and paste some code that I've written beforehand. And as you can see here, requiring those packages, making an instance of Express or the Express app. I then have the Swagger and supporting packages being brought in. I'm also referencing here body parser, as I will create a post route as well. And then from 11 onwards, you can see here that I have the Swagger options. If you're curious about what goes into this or what could be included in this, you can look at the packages on npm. Here I'm going with something minimal, just a title, a version, and I'm referring here to the API, which is this file. I then set that into a docs variable, as you can see there, Swagger docs, and I then pass that in app.use within Express and include that configuration there. Now note here also that this will be the path to our API that will be automatically generated, that page that will document and allow us to test. Now the next thing that I'm going to do is that I'm going to go ahead and add a route. You can see there that I've added a route for get books. And you can see there as well that I'm simply responding with a single book, a Harry Potter book, just an object. Now above it is what is different. This is the comments for that route, but you can see there that they have sort of a funny structure to them. Now above it is Swagger and the comments for that route, but you can see there that they're a little bit different than you usually see. There's a certain structure to them. And actually, this is a format of a YAML structure that is defined by the open specification for APIs that is part of Swagger. And we can go ahead and take a look at that in the Swagger site. So if you navigate over to Swagger and you follow the links for the sample editor that's up and live, you can see here that there is an application that they're providing here as a reference. And you can see here how you would define a post. And if you scroll down, you could see here how you would define a get. And you can see there the richness of the amount of metadata that you could include. In this case, we're doing something pretty simple. We're simply providing a description and some additional parameters that we will use once we do the post route. So as you can see there, we have the equivalent on this route here. We have books. We're communicating that it's a get path that we are documenting the description for what it is, the responses that we could get, and we're capturing there that path or that route. I'm going to go ahead and scroll down and I will add one more for post, And you can see here that this one is more involved. And the reason for that is that I am including a parameter. I'm saying here that the name of that parameter will be titled, the description for the parameter, that parameter is going to be, in this case in the body, and whether it's required or not, and what type that is. So when it comes to the route itself, you can see here that I am simply picking up whatever title was passed in, and then I'm echoing that back on the response.send method. Now, the only thing that we have left to do is to add a listener on this file. Let's go ahead and do that. And I'm going to go ahead and run here at port 3000 instead of 3001. And if we look at our terminal, you can see there that code has been loaded and it's now running on port 3000. So now let's go ahead and enter that path. If you remember, that would be API-docs. And there, as you can see, we get an API that is documented. And if we go ahead and expand here, you can see there the metadata that we entered that conforms to the Swagger standard. And we can even test it out. In this case, there are no parameters being passed in, so it's a pretty minimal, say, description of what we have, but we can go ahead and execute it. And you can see here that we get the response that we were expecting. You can also see that automatically generated has been the command for curl that we would have needed to make this invocation. It also tells us where this is, what the path is. So we could go ahead and navigate to that address as well. And you could see here that we get, as expected, the same data back. Now, if we go ahead and scroll down, I'm going to go ahead and collapse this one and take a look at book. You can see here that book gives us more to try out. It can take a parameter, and in this case, it's a JSON string. So I'm going to go ahead and enter it in that format here, the formal JSON. So I'm going to go ahead and enter title, and then I will say testing Swagger. As you can see there, and all of the rest of the data that we entered was what was used to generate this automatically. I'm then going to go ahead and execute it. And as you can see there, we get the response that we expected, an object coming back with title and the title that we gave it and the invocation there. And then we get the same thing with curl. As mentioned before, all of this gets automatically generated for us. So as you can see here, this is a pretty easy way to be able to generate some documentation automatically and to be able to generate something that we can share readily.